I don't know if they had that when you went to high school. If you walked into the gate when you were coming back from lunch, or even in the morning when you're going to school and you were late, you were considered late, you were pulled aside. And she called me and I said to her, I was not late. My foot was in the gate.
Well, excuse me.
Oh, yes, I sure did. I sure did. My foot was in the gate, and I'm not considered late.
Like, subscribe, and share to Voices of Linden TV.
Welcome to another edition of the Let's Talk Show. I'm your host, Andrew James, and tonight I'm pleased to have with us in the studio via Zoom, Miss Coreen London Mitchell, a former Mackenzie High School student, year 1980 to 1985. Currently, Miss London Mitchell is serving as an HR professional. Please welcome Miss Coreen London Mitchell.
Hi, Andrew. Good evening. Nice to have me here on your show. It's a pleasure.
Welcome to the show. I know we last met at a little get-together there a little while ago. It's nice to see you again. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to see you too. Nice to see you too. Thank you.
Miss London Mitchell, for folks watching this show that don't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I was born in the Linden. I born and grew up in Linden for maybe my first 19 or so years. Born in Ornock Drive, Retrieve, and then moved to Caracara. I later, of course, when I started school, went to Caracara Primary School. And there we had some great teachers, Miss Bernard, Miss Fordyce, Miss Shirley McDonald was our principal at one time. Joe Mackenzie was also there. And then I sat for the common entrance exams, and I went to Mackenzie High School, as you stated, from 1980. I stayed there for 5 years. And some of the things that I actually remembered vividly of Mackenzie High School is my favorites, Mr. Monroe, who did physical ed, who is now Mr. Muhammad, Mr. Ned, who did agriculture. I loved agriculture, just being there with the chickens and gardening. And also home economics. I actually loved that subject. Not to say that I didn't like the other subjects, but for some reason, those are the ones I took too. I also liked Miss Hicks, who did typing. So I did some typing classes out of Mackenzie High School, where I gained some certifications during that time. And then, of course, after I left Mackenzie High School, I actually went to St. Stanislaus College for 1 year and returned from St. Stanislaus College and started working at GT&T before I migrated to the US.
So you left Mackenzie High School, or what was the circumstance with you going on to St. Stanislaus College, if you don't mind sharing with us, of course?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, this is, not one of my proudest moments, right?
Okay.
But, and I'm sure, I don't know if they had that when you went to high school. So, if you walked into the gate when you were coming back from lunch, or even in the morning when you're going to school and you were late, you were considered late, you were pulled aside, and then you were given lashes by, the teachers. So at that time, it was Miss Dennis or Britton, Gloria Britton. And she called me and I said to her, I was not late. My foot was in the gate.
Well, excuse me.
Oh, yes, I sure did. I sure did. My foot was in the gate, and I'm not considered late. And she said, yes, you are. And we had a little back and forth. And she asked me to go home and bring my mom. Wow. And I did. And this, of course, was my last year. So I went and I brought my mom to the school. We had a sat down with her. And I actually refused to apologize to Miss Britton. Mm. So, but she let me finish, the remaining of the school term. But I wanted to return because, Andrew, I was not an A student in Mackenzie High School. I was really like a B student, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and test taking for me, I had a fear of test taking. So I would do good on essays, but horrible on test taking. And so I wanted to do some more subjects. So at that point, I decided, you know what? My uncle taught woodworks at St. Stanislaus. So I went and I spent a year there before graduating from school.
So if you were to see Miss Gloria Britton today on the street, what would be the reaction? Given the history, of course, the very colorful history, if I may.
Yeah, oh yeah. Actually, you know what? I would not have a problem. I actually did see her years ago, ran into her on Flatbush Avenue, Brooklyn. And it actually was like nothing happened. We greeted each other. We had a moment together and that was it. So, I think, that's kind of what is it? Guy bonds, let bygones be bygones. Mm-hmm. So, she kind of, like, you know what? Okay, maybe she grew up, maybe, she got better. I mean, I didn't have a history. That was actually my first time. We were always, at least I would consider myself a great student at Mackenzie High School in terms of behavior.
Okay. Very nice. Good. Awesome.
Yes.
Human resources. What drew you into this profession? And if you can tell us a little bit about, I guess the connection to human resources and if at all in Mackenzie High School.
Absolutely. So I must say, when I came out of high school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Other than I knew I loved doing hair, and my dream for me was I wanted to be a hairdresser. But obviously, I did some business. My subjects in high school was mainly business subjects. And so, I thought of, I was an AA at, or administrative assistant or secretary. Let's be real, secretary at GT&T, not admin assistant, So obviously, that wasn't something I wanted to do for life. So after I migrated here and I started going to school, I did my bachelor's, and it was that one subject, employee relations, that it kind of, it clicked. You know what? I think HR is what I want to do. Okay. And so at that time I had a professor who worked at the Long Island Railroad, and we had a conversation, and she said, you know what, if that's what you think you want to do, go ahead. And so that's how I ended up in HR. So I started there in 2006, late bloomer. In 2006, I've been there within the hospital system, and now currently at a nonprofit healthcare organization for about 11 years.
Nice, very nice. I like human resources. I mean, there's a myth around, you got to go see HR. It's obviously you're getting fired, or you're in trouble, or you get a letter, or something has changed. What does HR mean? Like, is that what HR is all about? Traditionally, HR used to be the paper job.
Right.
Paper,
Right. And I think a lot of people still have that as the concept of HR. But HR is a strategic partner or department that helps the organization to develop, to grow. And there's so many different facets from HR. You have the employee engagement aspect. You have the talent acquisition aspect, or if you want to say the recruitment aspect of it. You have performance improvement aspect, measuring individuals' performance. And so that's an area within itself. You have, of course, the labor relations aspect. You have your benefits aspect, and you have your compensation aspect. So there are so many different things that, if you want to do, you can. I am a true generalist, so I, dabble in every area of HR. Obviously, if someone wants, they can go and be specialized into the different areas.
Ms. London Mitchell, can you tell us a little bit about what you do when you're not HRing? When you're not the director, you are in your little corner office or wherever you sit. What do you do in your spare time?
Wow. So first and foremost, I love to cook. And I give credit to that. First, for my mom actually went to Carnegie School of Home Economics. That's the first thing. So cooking was what she did. She baked bread, Solara, buns, ice block, everything, sugar cake. My mom did it all. And so, of course, at one point she sold items. But the other aspect is, we always had meals that were prepared that were always tasty. So, I would say I got that from her, but I also give credit to the agriculture that I did, as a subject in high school. So, I love planting, I love farming, the idea of planting and sowing, what you planted, you say reap what you sow. So for me, that was a big thing. And so that led me to the whole idea of, when it comes to wellness, healthy eating, your nutrition, balanced diet. And I love to do that. I mean, there were a number of years, yes, you came here and, you did a little can this and can that, but now I can honestly say that other than coconut milk, there is nothing else that you can find in my cupboard that's canned. and so, yeah, so, I'm there and I'm cutting the carrots to the zucchini to everything. And I eat a lot of things, so I don't think, if I'm to say that I don't like something, I would be wrong. It's just maybe because I haven't tried it. Everything that I've tried, I love. And so, that agriculture kind of really led me to healthy eating. I do it for myself. I find once I'm in the kitchen, that's where, the ideas comes. Of course, if it's quiet, and I go and I would jot down, little ideas that comes to mind. But definitely, in addition to cooking, and of course, some individuals know that I cook very well, and so every now and then I get an order, whether it's chow mein or, a dish of macaroni cheese or, something like that. And I will do that again. It's just, because I love to do it. It's not because I want to make money. That's not the whole idea. But besides from that, I grew a passion for, it's all like the natural things, the things of the earth, So I tried about 2 years ago, I made some face masks out of brown rice. I actually had soaked the brown rice to do a hair regimen. And so I decided, what, I can, think of something and I can make a face mask. So I did that. And then I also started doing some skincare for myself. And so I actually, I've made a recent batch of skincare. And of course, I can't tell the name yet, because I believe something might be cooking up, somewhere.
Okay,
but
stand by, stay tuned.
Yes, definitely. Okay. Yeah, so I do skincare and I love oils, essential oils, so whether I do diffuse it or I add it to, maybe teas or just for healing purposes. Essential oils, those are things that are really big for me.
I look forward to hearing more about the organic line that's up and coming there. Let's bring it back to this whole discussion around HR. Can you tell us a little bit about the effects of misrepresentation on social media? And as an HR professional, what does that mean to you through your own lens?
Absolutely, Andrew. I don't think that, and I don't want to just say the young people, but people in general, because they're different individuals at different age level that indulge with behaviors that will later impact them during the employment process. So for me, it's, you see individuals on social media indulging in, the parties, the alcohol, the cursing, just kind of putting out material there that's sometimes are false, or we want to say untrue, if that's it. But I think those, and just really the company that those individuals surround themselves with. And so that can impact them when they're seeking a job. It may not, Andrew, affect them depending on the organization. So maybe a small organization does not have the time to go and do a social media check. Right. But let's say you're going at a larger organization for employment. That is something that you have individuals that do that. That look at profiles, look at LinkedIn profiles, look at your IG profiles, look at Twitter and so forth. So I think, those individuals for who, create that kind of atmosphere for themselves, should really consider that if they're looking for a job, that will affect them at some point.
What about someone who's not using their correct name on Facebook? So like for you, Coreen London Mitchell, let's say you have a profile and it's not Coreen, but it's Maureen or Doreen or Serena or whatever. How would an HR person be able to make that connection that it's you?
Right, they probably would not be able to, absolutely not. But, the thing is, and I've seen this before, if you have one name, you use at least one of your names, they probably can do a search and see. Correct. Yes, they probably will have to go through many individuals, but and what they also would look at is, okay, I know, or this person circle, let's say, especially if, let's say it's a referral, right? Someone was referred for the position, and you're going to look at the referral's name because that person works in your organization, and you're going to go and see if you can get to that individual. So that's not necessarily that you have to have the entire name, but at least some aspect of it.
As an HR professional, can you tell us about what are some of the best decisions you've made in your career, and some of, if I'm not sure if you had to, but some of the more challenging and the more tough and difficult decisions you had to make?
So best for me would be, as a HR professional that was kind of, if you want to say, coming up the ranks, right? Is that fear factor? So I can tell you, I recall, I've worked at a major hospital, pretty big, and then I got laid off. And so I was home kind of doing childcare and also finishing up my first master's. So I figure, let me take the 5 months off. So I took that time off, and so went back into the market. I got the job. I've been there for about 3-4 years. And my predecessor, who actually stayed in the organization, always would tell me, if I leave, I would love you to, have this position. But of course, I have to interview for it.
Nice.
And I recall maybe about half an hour before the interview, I'm in my office and I'm crying. I'm literally there crying, Andrew, because, I've never led a department. I don't have, thought I didn't have the skills. But I think, once I interviewed, I actually think, let me tell you this. While I'm on the phone crying, saying I don't want to go to this interview, I knock at the door, and that's that little angel came. And this was a doctor who said, and I opened and, dry my eyes, and she said, "Are you crying?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "What are you crying for?" So I mentioned to her, I don't want to do this, and she looked at me, she said, "Girl, you better go." So I interviewed, and I was successful at the interview. And so because I didn't have that management experience, what my organization did was created a manager position for me so I can work in that capacity. And then I was later promoted to the head of the department as the director. So basically, I think for me, that was a big thing, just knocking that fear, because a lot of times we go into things that we're very fearful of. And for me, that was a great stepping stone. So on the converse of that, I would definitely say that, as women, I have to talk for, our women out there, we, when I started at a particular organization, I was earning more money. And so I went to another organization and they wanted to pay me less. And kind of maybe out of desperation, I said, you know what, but I did weigh certain things out. The hours were less. The benefits were about the same, but the pay was a little less. Because, you're in HR, you don't want to speak, you have to walk the talk, right? So, you're learning HR. If you're saying you have to learn the power of negotiation, you have to do it for yourself.
Right.
Yeah. So for me, it's getting that nerve to learn to negotiate for myself. And so in my 2 roles that I did thereafter, in that second job that I was able to say, listen, I know my value. This is what I worth, and this is what I would like to get. So, yes.
Signs that an interview is not going well.
Wow. So the first thing is someone showing up late for the interview. Showing up late, maybe not even a phone call. I could understand for a bit, if you have a number, you call, you reach out and you say, you know what, I'm running late. Could be, excusable. But, still a red flag, because that means, you didn't prepare enough. You didn't give yourself the time enough to travel. And even now we're on the Zoom platform, I've seen so many times that the interview is, let's say 8:00 and 5 after, and you're calling, I can download the app. We've been in pandemic for almost 2 years. And yes, I understand that was at the beginning, it was new for everyone, but had you prepare for that interview? So that's a big one. And then obviously, those interviews that seem so rehearsed, that if you have a follow-up question, that individual don't even know how to answer that question. So that's a big one. That's a big one. For me, dress is still a big thing. Whether you're on Zoom or whether you're showing up in person. We haven't had in-person's interview, but if you're showing up, show up, for the job. Right. Because that tells a lot of the individual in themselves.
Very good. Talk to us about someone that's in the same position for many years, and they're I don't want to use the word complacent, but they're not excited about advancing.
Right. So I've seen that so many times, Andrew. And I would say maybe one, lack of motivation. Maybe the individual. I have to say that responsibility is 100% that individual. However, I do believe that their manager plays a big role in that also, in helping that person to direct them into a path. Because let's be real, we have performance evaluations every year. You know, some people do self-evaluations. It asks, what is it that you want to do? You know, what's your plan? So if we're going to be leaders, right, we just can't go and say, well, okay, I'm a manager, I'm making the money, leaders lead. And so they bring people along with them. Right. You know, some of the leaders or managers are afraid that maybe that person might take their position or so forth. But no, you can lead them into, you know, or steer them into so many other avenues. You know, where I am, it's healthcare. And we start off, let's say, in the clinical aspect, you have what's called medical assistants. And you can go be an RN, an LPN, from an LPN to RN to nurse practitioner. And if you want to stop there, fine. If you want to go get your doctorate in nurse practitioner, that is fine. But I find lack of motivation. And then the other aspect, what I've seen quite recently in my role is that individuals are, you know, the socio-economic aspect of it. You know, if I go from one position to a next, my rent is going to increase. Right? And so I don't want to come out of that. And so that person prefers to stay where they are. And so for me, that's the big thing. I never could really understand that, you know, but it is part of, you know, what individuals do. And so I guess it's whatever make them comfortable. But I always try to encourage individuals to take that step. And of course, you know, it's either, I heard someone said the other day, go or grow. You grow them. And even when you grow them, it's time to go. Let them go. Let them go get a better job, a better opportunity somewhere.
So through your lens, the job of a leader is to create additional leaders.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Create more leaders.
So, I know you're the professional. I'm not. My job is to ask questions and listen. But in the case of a teacher, I love teachers. You know, if it wasn't for good teachers, we probably wouldn't have been where we are today. What would you say to a teacher that's not aspiring to become, I don't know, a vice principal or a principal or a director or, I don't know, a mistress or like,
right?
This young individual have a passion for teaching. I'll give you a good example. One of my best teachers, her name is Miss Butcher, Nancy Butcher. And recently I was talking to Miss Butcher, and she said to me, and it actually touched me in a very, very special place there, you know. She said to me, I really enjoyed teaching Prep A and Prep B because I used to admire seeing these young children grow. And that was her fulfillment.
Right.
She empowered them. She's the one that taught me how to spell rat and cat and bat and boy. Fundamentals.
Andrew, I totally agree with you, but you said a couple of words. She's passionate. You have, so the teachers, so I would say, so there's entry-level positions, and then you have those who are supervisory and up, right? Entry-level positions, those are the ones you want to nudge them to go further. A teacher, a supervisor, it's so wide in so many different ways, right? As long as you are passionate, you said that word, passionate. She made a difference. She may not want to go further in terms of, you know, being assistant principal, and so forth, but are you making a difference in individuals' lives? And I think that's what matters.
Okay, I'll throw the ball back at you and say, if I'm doing an entry level job and I'm passionate and I'm happy about it, let's get case in point. I'm at a peanut butter factory and I'm producing beautiful peanut butter, and I'm happy doing that.
Well, I think again, you're happy, but those supervisors, there's something that manager, supervisor can see in you to say, you know what? I see you're doing this and doing this well. I look undercover boss all the time, you know, and there are instances where, you know, the boss would come and say, well, you know what? I can send you to go to this school, that school, or I can put you in another position, right? But so that's what leaders do, you know, because if that person don't have someone to lead them, to mentor them, to coach them, you know, that's all they know, they would stay there. So it's our job as leaders to, you know what, elevate those individuals, yes, even though they're passionate where they are.
I like what you said earlier. You either grow or you go. You go, girl. So the last question on this whole concept of either staying, go, or growing. If I find myself in the same position for 7 years and there's no offer of advancement, obviously there's other people in the office that's advancing, but for some reason, you know, my career remains stagnant. What advice would you give to that individual?
You said the person remains stagnant, or is there? Okay.
There's a willingness on my part that I desperately want to become a supervisor. I desperately want to become a manager. I want to lead, but I'm not being offered that opportunity. Apart from going, what advice would you give to that person? I'm doing everything that's right. I'm getting all the education, all the training. I speak well. You know.
Yeah, definitely. I would say seek a mentor. You know, seek a mentor, have a mentor-mentee relationship, because that's what mentors are there for, right? For example, you know, my daughter, even though she's in college, right? I said to her, you don't have to wait till you get out of school to seek a mentor. And so we reached out to someone in our circle that was, well, actually referred through someone in my circle. And his words was, I wish I had a mom like your daughter, because I was on the first call with her, you know, she was a little timid. Oh my goodness, it's someone of the opposite sex, you know, but I stayed on the call with her. And, you know, he said, had he done what she's doing now, you know, he would have been in such a better place. Did he have regrets? No, but it would have steered him in the right direction. So I think that's very important, the mentor-mentee relationships. Coaching, yeah.
Excellent. Is it fair to conclude that an employer doesn't have any interest in you if there's no offer of promotion, if there's no willingness to mentor, if there's no apples being thrown your way? Would you say the employer is just not interested in you based on, I don't know, it could be that your Facebook profile, you're, you know, anti-organization or anti their mission, or perhaps you have a bad attitude or some kind of unwarranted affiliation?
I definitely would say that, and so that's you know, a sign that that employee has to look out for, you know. And if the person is staying there, obviously, you know, they're not aware, you know, are fully aware. They might be aware, but not fully aware. And so for me, my message to that individual is, you know, to move somewhere else to see if what else is out there. There's so many other things that's out there, but definitely if that employer is not doing anything, you know, you're there and they're not doing anything, you know, a dual track to see, okay, maybe we can give you more responsibility or something like that. Definitely, you know, they're not, they don't have your interests at heart.
Wow.
Yeah, they're probably more concerned of, how many widgets you produce. If you produce the widgets, that's it. That's what I'm concerned with. You meet my numbers, that's it. Yeah, so I would definitely say that.
All righty. I got a friend who's in that situation. I'll be making a phone call to him first thing tomorrow, and we will be having a conversation there.
Get that resume ready.
Ms. Lana Mitchell, we're just punching up against time here. What advice would you give to a young person at Mackenzie High School who is struggling? They don't feel motivated. There's no drive. They're not, I guess, advancing academically, and they just feel like giving up. They are on the brink of calling it quits. What advice would you give to that individual?
So the one thing that I would give to that individual, well, there are probably more than one, but for me, obviously I was not in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that worked for me all along, through my bachelor's, through my first master's, through my second master's, consistency. You may feel a certain way, but if you're consistent with what you're doing, you can move from where you are from A to B,
Mm-hmm.
right? So consistency, you can't, there are certain things that you can't teach people. They have to have it in them, right? However, I would say if that parent or that teacher, sees that in that individual, they have a responsibility also to, provide some kind of help for that individual, and so that can be, through whatever programs that are available. And if there are no programs that are available, some kind of mentor mentee, as I mentioned before, mm-hmm. so that individual can walk them through. And I'm not talking about a 6-month relationship, for this individual. If the person, obviously, if there's their last year, it's a little more difficult because, that mentor would get into that person's life a little too late. But then in terms of their high school age, mm-hmm. they can still mentor them on beyond that. But while you're in high school, the earlier you catch that issue or challenge, it should be dealt with. And so I would say for those, some kind of program, that will help them to get from point A to point B.
Nice answer. And you just answered the next question I was just in the process of asking you, which is, what do you think we can do as a group or as an association to influence change in the life of a student? And I think you nailed that question without even me asking you. Thank you very much for doing that.
Absolutely.
I will throw this back at you, though. Mm-hmm. The reality for some students is that there isn't the existence of a mentorship program. There isn't that structure. For example, when I was growing up, it was a different age. I mean, now we have technology and technological revolution and the advancement and the integration of 5G networks and all these nice, the world is more connected now compared to when we were little. But now with everything changing, the availability of a mentorship program, is it available at Mackenzie High School? I've been doing this program for over close to a year now, and constantly people keep saying, let's do a mentorship program. Mm-hmm. The reality is there is one in the works, but it's taking time. We want to ensure that when it's established, there's transparency. We want to ensure that, we protect individuals. Mm-hmm. We don't connect them with somebody who has ill will intentions. So my question to you, and it's a final question, what do you say to the young person who don't have access to a mentorship program, but desperately looking for help and looking for that connection to someone who can impact and influence change in their little lives?
So I can definitely say if there's, let's put aside the mentorship program. If that individual, let's say they have access to some kind of social media, and okay, I admire this individual, I want to see if I can get in contact. So I'll give you an example. I have someone who, just looked at my LinkedIn profile, and said to me, sent me a message. I'm looking for someone to mentor me.
Wow.
And I'm looking at your profile and I think you will be the right fit. And so I've been mentoring her for just about a year,
So you responded with a yes.
Absolutely.
Very
Absolutely.
nice.
I responded. So, and I've never met the individual, because of COVID or so. But, I reach out, we have Zoom calls. So again, as you mentioned, technology is in place, so you send a message and hopefully, like me, individuals respond, so there's, because not all individuals, of course I went and I looked her profile also, and and so forth, but I said, well, you know what, I'm open to doing this.
Yes.
And so I think we as individuals have to be a little more open, but I must say, as you mentioned, in terms of, you have to be careful who these individuals are, references, maybe go through a way where, this person knows someone, and maybe it's not a total stranger, especially for the younger kids, so you have to be very careful. But absolutely, if you're going to do a program, you are going to make sure that you do background checks on those individuals, some kind of check, before you assign them. But I think it is possible, to do. It is something that's possible.
How often do you meet, and what format does it take? Yeah, I mean, without getting into the specifics, we all want
absolutely.
to know the discussions and so. But if you can just give us a general sense of what the expectations are, what boundaries they are, and what are your expectations as a mentor?
Right.
So, of course,
so I think for me, it would be a little different for a student than someone who is, already in the workforce and is a little more matured, right? So you would have to kind of form that, the outline based on who it is. So, but generally, what I've done in the past is, what you reach out, let's have an initial talk, and so we have the initial conversation. What is it you're looking for? And then we kind of went on to, okay, after at the end of the conversation, this is, kind of give my background, and all that. They kind of give a little more, because again, what's on the profile is just it's on the profile. You don't see the in between. So you have to get to know the individual on a professional basis a little more. And so then after you have established that, you kind of find out, this is my role. You make sure you let them know what is your role. Your role is not a counselor. It's a mentor. They're a mentee. It's not a counselor. I'm not hearing all your problems, all your issues. It's a mentor. I'm mentoring you to get from point A to point B. And so for the individual is, I've asked to come to the table, and I do give homework, not necessarily something that, it's written, but okay, your goals, timelines, what is it that you're doing, if you haven't started to get from point A to point B, and so how long that is going to take you to get there. And so I do check-ins, just to see, we met every 2 weeks. And then we extended it to once a month, just, the first initial, to make sure everything is on track. But every time kind of just come up with these questions based on our previous meetings. What is it that I would like? So I don't have like a grand plan, but I take it, okay, this is what has transpired here. So next point, when we get there and we do the check-in first, this is what we proceed to do. So yes.
Very nice. Ms. London Mitchell, I think we'll leave it there. I feel like I'm growing a lot, but unfortunately I have to go.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Andrew. It's been an absolute pleasure. And the one thing I didn't say up front is I know your dad. I know your brother Robert.
Yes, I'm in trouble. Yes, I'm in trouble.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, Ms. London Mitchell, thank you for being a part of the show. It's not very often we get to sit with fun people like yourself to have good conversations. So I'm forever grateful, and I look forward to speaking with you again in the near future. Of course, I look forward to hearing about your upcoming products, your organic skin and oil products.
Thank you.
There's always going to be a special place in this show, should the need be for you to showcase what you have in store. You are a friend of the show, and we look forward to seeing and working with you again in the near future.
Thank you so much. I do appreciate you. Thank you.
Have a good night. Thanks again.
You too. Take care now.
Blessings.
Okay, bye-bye.